All right. We may have a couple of folks continue to trickle in. We will go ahead and get started for the sake of everybody's time. So thank you again for joining today's training session about returns, refunds, and order cancellations within RevolutionParts. We're going to keep today's training. It's actually pretty short and sweet. This is all very high level. We're going to kick off with a quick introduction to RevolutionParts as well as your success team. From there, we're going to talk about the general process for returns and cancellations in RevolutionParts, including a live demo. We'll also discuss a few things that you can do on the dealership side to make returns easier, rather, for you and your customers. And then we'll wrap it up with our recommendations and any questions from the group. If you don't know a whole lot about RevolutionParts just yet, we're born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. We have revolutionaries all over the country. I myself am in southeastern Virginia. We've been around since 2014, and we're an assortment of former parts and automotive professionals, e-commerce experts, and digital marketing wizards. We've worked with dealerships of all shapes and sizes across the country to help them sell their parts online. To date, so far, we've helped our dealerships to sell more than $1.5 billion, with billion dollars in online sales. This has also helped us to achieve premier partnership status with Google as of 2022, which is a great achievement and a title that 3% or less of businesses can say. So we're very thankful. None of that, of course, is to brag, but just to reinforce our new partnership with you as the industry expert when it comes to automotive parts e-commerce. So thank you so much for choosing us to join your teams in achieving your milestones. As far as I go, I'm Kristen Siren. I'm part of our dealership advisor team, and you'll typically see me in dealership training like these, whether it's webinar series or one-to-one training. Depending on your subscription with RevolutionParts, once you graduate from Erica or Ivy, you'll either work with me or you'll be partnered with a dedicated customer success manager to provide you ongoing performance reviews, growth opportunities, and strategic planning. Additionally, we have an amazing support team on hand in our home office of Phoenix. They're available from 8 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time by phone, email, or chat. Our support team has worked in RevolutionParts for a number of years across different interactions with the platform. They're a great resource for general questions or how do I in RevolutionParts in regards to orders or other processes. They're also very helpful for technical setup or troubleshooting. They're also a fantastic resource for escalated, urgent, or time-sensitive matters as well. Additionally, beyond the human touch, we try to offer 24/7 support to our dealers through a number of different channels. The most common is our knowledge base, and this is located in the Help tab of your RevolutionParts platform. Our knowledge base is an amazing, ever-growing collection of product and setting guides, walkthrough videos, FAQ, and more to cover all types of different topics for RevolutionParts, but also automotive e-commerce. 9 times out of 10, in fact, our dealers have told us that they've been able to answer a question or solve a problem in less than 10 minutes by going to the knowledge base. So we always recommend that you use this resource. When it comes to returns, refunds, and potential cancellations, it's par for the course when it comes to selling. Now, odds are that your dealership already has some type of a return policy and process in place if you've been doing sales, even parts, over the counter or over the phone. So you may already have some best practices and guidance in place. If not, we always recommend that you partner, of course, with your GM and other stakeholders to create a policy that works. A good return policy is typically going to include some of the following. We always recommend that you write clear, concise policies in regards to your shipping, returns, or other store policies. Essentially, the best thing to do is keep it simple. Your sellers or your buyers, excuse me, shouldn't have to be legal experts. So if your policy is too confusing or too rigid, they may decide not to buy with you, or they may leave a negative review. It can also be hard to earn buyer trust. Secondly, it's important to put in your policies and make your buyers aware of restrictions or limitations when it may come to refunds, returns, or order cancellations. This is a great example is going to be installed parts or other electrical components that are rarely eligible for return. So if that's the case for your dealership as well, be sure to specify that in your policy. We also suggest that you list that in your product detail and other parts in Revolution Parts, which we covered in customer communications. It's also important to remember that returning the part, shipping is going to be a factor. On average, the return period for retail is 14 to 45 days, so be sure to take that into account when creating your timeline. It's also important to get familiar with marketplace policies if you're selling on additional channels like Amazon, eBay, or Walmart.com. These marketplaces will look at the dealer policies. However, more often than not, they use their policy to side in favor of the buyer. If this is the case, it is important that you are familiar with the processes and the seller standards for these marketplaces to help you reduce refund, return, or cancellation instances. It's also important that where possible that you be flexible overall as different circumstances arise, and of course use your best judgment as when you're processing an order when it comes to a return or cancellation. Just remember that kindness and courtesy go a long way into improving your buyer experience, even when it's a return. From here, I'd like to jump straight into the return and refund process, as well as how to handle cancellation requests. We're going to do this within the Revolution Parts platform. Before I continue, I want to take a quick pause. Do we have any questions or perhaps any contributions from the group in regards to what we've already covered? You can feel free to utilize the chat, or you can unmute and ask questions. I'll be monitoring both, but I'll keep this going. So just interrupt me as the questions come. Now, with Revolution Parts, when it comes to return, cancellation, refund requests, you'll get email notifications as you do for new orders. You'll also be able to see return and refund requests in your order screen on the left-hand side under our admin. The main return is going to give us an overview of all of the transactions that we have in process, including those that have already been refunded, those which may be a new request, and those that may have been canceled. Just like with new orders, we have filtering available so that you can quickly and easily go to any of your requests that are new, in progress, or may have already been refunded. Now, in most cases, a buyer request for a refund or a cancellation may come from a couple of things. We know that we're dealing with a lot of availability issues right now that's causing longer than usual delays on common parts. Some are even on indefinite back order. So in some cases, you may have a customer who simply cannot wait and is insistent that they're able to find the part somewhere else quicker, so they may request either a refund or that you cancel the order if payment has not yet been collected. We're going to go to a completed order to do an example of a refund. Ooh, I see a good question in here. What is abandoned? Great question. So abandoned orders up here just on the left-hand side are going to be all of the orders where customers got to the checkout portion of your website but did not buy. Sometimes these customers may have gotten so far as to put in their name and a method of contact, but no payment and otherwise left. So what we do is we collect this information so that you can follow up on abandoned orders through cart savers. I believe we covered these in yesterday's training session around customer communication, but we also have abandoned coming up in future training sessions. Additionally, you may see failed orders, and failed orders are going to mean that your customer attempted some kind of payment, but for one reason or another, it would not go through. Before I proceed, I want to make sure, does that help to answer your question about abandoned orders? All right, very good. So we're going to look at this order example for an order cancellation. We can see that this order has already been completed. We can see that payment has already been collected. So in most circumstances, this may already have been shipped and received by your customer. When you go into the order that is going to be refunded or returned, it's important that you do not reopen the order, but instead use the create return option up here towards the top right. Once you do this, this is going to bring us back to the return screen and show us the items that are on the order. Now, if it's a case where you have multiple items, maybe some are in stock and some need to be ordered, you can choose which items you intend to return or refund. Once you choose the item you're going to return or refund, you'll also be prompted to select a reason. This will be required in order to complete the next step, so make sure you choose what is best applicable. We also have an option for other where you can write free text if none of our options apply. This information is used to help both Revolution Parts and our OEM partners to improve messaging and product availability for your sellers. It's a circumstance where you have multiple quantities of the same item. You can adjust the amount to be returned here, as well as any applicable restocking fees. It's a circumstance where you have an escalated customer or maybe a high volume customer that needs some additional TLC, or maybe they had an exception to your return policies. You do have the option to be able to add an additional courtesy credit. This credit, of course, can be for any reason that seems the most appropriate and at any amount. Now, this order was for a local pickup, so we don't see the option to refund for shipping. However, if your customer did get their part delivered via any of your shipping carriers, you'll have the option to return some or all of the shipping as well. Like with order processing, we have a note section where you can notate anything important in regards to the return or the interaction. Before we move to the next step, to initiate the return, we want to do a quick check over here on the right-hand side just to make sure that all of our information is up to date and correct. Once you've done so, hit Start Return, and it's going to take us into the return portion of the screen. Similar to like what we've seen with new orders, we're going to be able to see payment information here. We'll be able to see any internal notes documented by your dealership team. These are not customer facing and visible to your buyers. However, they are visible to all Revolution Parts users and admins, including myself. And these messages cannot be deleted, so it's important to be mindful as to what you put in there. However, provide as much detail and context as possible. You can also email the customer directly through the return screen like you can through orders to automatically notify them of any changes. You will also have options throughout to automatically notify them by email. On the right-hand side with the return details, we want to double check and make sure that everything is updated. We always recommend that you update your order status to in progress with new orders. So just like return and refund requests, once you begin processing, be sure to update your status from new to received. You can also add a DMS or an RMA number here if necessary. If everything looks good, we're going to check the box here to notify our customer, and we will continue with the refund. Now, depending on how your customer paid for their order will depend, of course, on how the refund is initiated. If you use PayPal as one of your payment gateways, whether it's for credit card and debit card processing, the use of PayPal account, PayPal credit, or PayPal pay later, you will have to go into your dealership PayPal account to release those funds back to your customer. Otherwise, if you've done an offline adjustment, such as collected the funds in store, or if you have another payment gateway, such as Authorize.net, SendPass, or Stripe, that does your credit and debit card processing, then you'll see the option to refund the amount to the original payment. If it's a situation, again, where you're reporting perhaps an offline adjustment, maybe this is a cash or a check transaction, you want to make sure to notate that here. Once you hit refund, we'll get a notice that our refund has been completed, and we can go back to our refunds page to see that that order has been completed. Now, additionally, if you have a circumstance where you may be in the middle of processing an order and your customer wants to cancel the order, that is quick and easy. I don't know if I've got anything that's new. We'll go to something that's maybe here in progress. Just like with returns, up here towards the top, we'll see a button to cancel the customer order. Once you do this, you'll be prompted to choose a reason why. Again, just like in the return and refund screen, this is going to help us ultimately improve your customer experience and your experience as well. If it's a situation where you can add any additional notes, please be sure to do so. Otherwise, go ahead and cancel order. Just like with returns, you'll see a success notice up here that we have completed that cancellation. However, we can also see that we do have funds collected. So in this case, we would go back and follow the same process that we did with the previous return. If we can check out another example. Okay. So here, for example, we have a new order. It's been put into progress, but we haven't collected any payment yet, and maybe our customer is requesting to cancel this order. We'll follow the same steps by hitting cancel order up here in the top right. Because no funds have been collected, we won't have to worry about the exchanging of any monies. I will point out, like we reviewed in order processing, within the payment screen of all of your orders, we have a detailed transaction history that can show you anything that's been done in regard to that payment. Typically, new sales that come through will be put on a temporary authorization or a hold. This will give you guys time to be able to ensure that you can put your hands on the part or source it to be able to fulfill the order before you collect the funds. Once you collect the funds, you will then see sale and additional details over to the right. If it's a situation where you haven't collected payment yet and your customer asks you to cancel, once you cancel the order, you'll be able to see in the transaction history that the order was either voided or canceled. This means that since no funds were collected, that temporary hold or authorization on their payment will be released within 2 to 3 business days or in line with the payment processor. There's a situation where you have a customer who's concerned that they may not have received their refund fully. You can always refer back to their order and refunds through the transaction history. We also have reporting in the back end of RevolutionParts for returns, cancellation reasons, and other sales activities. Similar to our other messaging within RevolutionParts and our selling channels, return requests, cancellation requests, and other customer messaging will also be copied in your message center. So it's important that you check this inbox on a regular basis whenever you're working within RevolutionParts. You can also respond directly to your customers from here or create brand new emails using a template message. We covered this briefly in our communication training yesterday. You can also create, of course, a custom body and upload any attachments. In a nutshell, there are a couple of key things that we want everybody to walk away with in regards to returns, refunds, and cancellations within RevolutionParts. I neglected to cover this, so I apologize. But in regards to shipping labels, we do have an upcoming feature enhancement that is going to allow you to print shipping labels directly from RevolutionParts like you can now for initial order fulfillment. At this time, if you have a customer that's requesting a return and needs to send you a part back or a core back, you will have to create that return label in your shipping carrier. So if you shipped out via UPS, you'll need to log into your UPS account to be able to print or share that return label. However, we have a really cool enhancement coming soon to alleviate that step. It's also important to remember that if you're using PayPal as a payment gateway and your customers use that to buy, that is how their orders will be refunded. So once you've completed the process within Revolution Parts, make sure you log back into your dealership PayPal account to complete the transaction and release their funds. We also recommend that, especially if you're selling on any third-party marketplace like Amazon, eBay, or Walmart, that you get intimately familiar with their return policies as well as any seller protection that they may offer. It's also good to make sure that you're logging into your selling channels on a regular basis to be on top of any new customer communications, open cases, or anything outstanding. Overall, to help reduce cancellations, returns, and refunds, we have quite a few different solutions, some of which we've hit on in previous training, some we'll get to in later series. But overall, we recommend doing proactive work like creating unique, clear, easy to follow policies regarding restore purchase and returns. We also recommend adding custom photos to the parts as well as enhanced description to add more credibility to your listings as well as provide more information to your buyers online. And last but not least, we have several ways for you to inform your customer to provide a VIN or a fitment to help guarantee the correct part for their order. Double checking the VIN throughout different parts of the order process is also a great way to reduce any cancellations or returns. And that is all we've got for today's session. We have about 5 minutes left. I've done a lot of talking, so I want to just stop and see, do we have any more questions, any comments, or can I cover anything in more depth within the platform? You can feel free to utilize the chat or unmute if you have questions. I'll give it just a second here to give everybody a chance to respond. All right, good deal. Looks like we're good. Okay. Very, very good. eBay is handled differently than the regular process. Great question. So you'll follow the same process within Revolution Parts to go ahead and get that refund started and documented. Once you've completed all of that, you do need to log back into PayPal to be able to release the funds. You should also be able to do this directly through eBay. We have some additional reference links in our knowledge base. There'll also be some future content we'll be sending out in regards to those policies. But if you have any more questions in regards to how to handle that through eBay, Amazon, or Walmart.com, you can always reach out to the dealer advisor team, to our support team, or of course, ask Erica and Ivy the next time that you connect. Do we have any other questions or any contributions to today's training? You're welcome, Dave. All right, very good. I'll let you guys have 4 minutes back to your day. Thank you so much for taking time out to spend with me and do some training with Revolution Parts. All of this is for you guys, so please send us your feedback. Let us know what's helpful, how we can better support you so that you guys can be successful online. But thank you so much for choosing us as your e-commerce partner. We're so happy to welcome you to the Revolution and have a safe, successful day.